Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your service, Mr. McAleenan. We've got over 140,000 migrants apprehended in May alone. There is unquestionably a problem at our border. It's a crisis. It's not a manufactured crisis. It's not a fake crisis. It's not a crisis that is exaggerated. If anything, it's been understated. So I think it's time for us to fix the problem. And in order to fix the problem, I think we have to fix our laws. Tragically, many in Congress have been unwilling to fix the underlying problem. Indeed, even after President Trump took significant steps toward addressing the problem with our laws in the last few days, some have responded, even within Congress, by mocking his efforts. And so I don't think this is a good time for flippancy or for political attacks. We need to get to work to restore the integrity, the manageability of our asylum system. Because of the Flores settlement agreement and other loopholes in the law, only 3.5% of unaccompanied alien children who enter this country are removed and sent back to their home countries. Acting Secretary McAleenan, do you have any doubt that such a low removal rate tends to incentivize more migration and more illegal smuggling of these minors?
I don't have any doubt. I know it's a direct cause.
And a related problem is that the humanitarian needs of those who are being used as pawns in this massive international human trafficking racket also burden DHS operations. In other words, as we have to devote 40% of the Border Patrol's resources to addressing these humanitarian issues, it creates other problems. Do you think that with CBP being forced to use its own scarce resources to process and care for asylum seekers, are the cartels by chance having an easier time bringing dangerous narcotics and other bad things into our communities?
We know they are. It's a specific tactic that we've seen used in 5 different sectors on the border where cartels will use large groups of families as a diversionary tactic to smuggle drugs in behind them. Unfortunately, it happens all the time on the border. And when you have 50% in some sectors, it was 40% when we were back in March at the level of 14,000 in custody. In the last week of May, we hit 19,000 in Border Patrol and CBP custody at the border. At that level, you're dealing with 50% of your staff focused on processing and care of migrants and not out on the border securing the line.
And as you know, the 20-day limit that we have on the detention of alien minors forces DHS to engage in what some describe as a catch and release program to ensure that there are real consequences for illegal entry. I think we need to be able to detain people who are coming in and claiming asylum long enough to evaluate their claims under our asylum laws. So taking into account the possibility of continuances and the fact that under current regulations, an alien is entitled to a certain number of days at various stages of an adjudication to file briefs and to make appeals, how long does it take realistically to adjudicate fully an asylum claim?
Yeah, helpfully this is not a hypothetical question because we had this authority in the past administration and Secretary Johnson at the time established family residential centers which provide an appropriate setting for families to stay together while they're going through an immigration proceeding. The average time for those proceedings was between 40 and 50 days. So we've been able to do this efficiently and effectively before to actually get immigration results. And if someone has a valid asylum claim, release them. If not, to repatriate them efficiently and create that integrity in the system that's necessary.
So we've done that. We've done that in the last few years.
Yes.
We did that not in this administration, but in the Obama administration.
Correct.
So why couldn't it work today?
Because we're under a court order, a single district court in the Ninth Circuit that prevents us from detaining families more than 20 days at a time.
Is there any appreciable difference in the time it takes to adjudicate a claim for withholding of removal versus a claim for asylum?
I don't believe so, no.
So far this year, we've apprehended 444,509 migrants from the 3 Northern Triangle countries of Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. That translates to about 1.32% of the total population of those countries. And many of those individuals, the more than 444,000 I mentioned, are people who are claiming asylum. If Central American countries, or people from Central American countries, were required to file refugee applications in their home countries and were barred from seeking asylum, would the administration see that as a justification to raise the refugee cap, currently set at 30,000?
I think that's something that we can discuss. So right now, Secretary Pompeo set the cap for Central America at over 3,000, and we've not nearly met that total because people are not applying safely in country. They're instead paying smugglers, and because they gain an advantage from coming unlawfully. We think it would be much better if they applied in a safe place near or at their home country, and then we could consider that case there.
Okay. So theoretically, that's possible.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator